want to talk about cryptocurrencies and also encryption of communications and encryption of data, which leads to certain loss of power for U.S. government, because more than any other government, it spies on people and on electronic processes and stock markets. I was looking at the news, and it was saying that Venezuelans, they published this cryptocurrency and they sold it off, and they made a lot of money, and now they're able to sell their oil to anybody. You don't need US dollar, or you don't need any special friends. Whoever wants that oil, they can get it easily. And then also, subsequently, I heard that on the 26th of March, they're gonna come up with the yuan backed contracts that you can just buy oil and have it delivered. So really, you don't need the dollar anymore. And then also, many cryptocurrencies are appreciating in value. Then many different companies, like gaming companies, companies that sell oil. I think Iran is coming up with their own crypto. I read something, but I wasn't quite sure. And then also a tendency in the world to do business between each other, like China and Russia are doing a lot of business, Iran and Russia. China does a lot of business with the Asian countries and also the rest of Asia, and with North America. These are all very interesting and positive developments. Then after the dollar is not needed anymore in so much in international transactions, what might happen, there might be a sharp devaluation in the dollar, and then I don't know. Well, what I'm really looking forward to is the day that the dollar has been so devalued that it's very expensive for the United States to maintain all these bases everywhere, and they have to recall all their troops. Basically, my interest in this area is to see the end of U.S. militarism and interfering in many different countries in their politics, and also to some extent I am interested in seeing the end of Federal Reserve and the interference of Federal Reserve in the open markets, suppression of precious metal prices, and interfering in things that are none of their business. And also, this might lead, because the Federal Reserve is a Jewish-owned bank, they might have problems. The Israelis, I don't know, they're too deeply entrenched financially, but hey, this might be a good point to wrap up their charade in the Middle East. I don't know. I think a lot of good might come out of it. Well, I had another video was saying that there was a Nostradamus prediction that the bourgeoisie will die over and over in 2018. I wanted to make a video talking about the death of many institutions that were built up in the past, and then they can maintain themselves because of the cheap money Federal Reserve dishes out. many companies, big companies and institutions, they really got drunk on the cheap money. Uh, well, this is exactly what happens in the parties. If there is cheap or free booze, people will come in and they'll drink heavily and they'll be all drunk by the 12 o'clock. The place is a wreck and there's a lot going on. Well, one of the things that all the cheap money from Federal Reserve is fosters militarism, and the U.S. government seems to be able to borrow all this money for all kinds of stupid stuff. For example, I heard that they had military advisors in Pakistan training Pakistanis to infiltrate into Iran and sell weapons there, or they have people in Syria. The Syrian government doesn't want them. I don't know how they can afford all these ventures, and well, the ISIS was their creation, and the ISIS is now gone, and then I don't know if they're gonna start another war. Who pays for all this? I think maybe if the world will stop using dollar for the oil, then the dollar will devalue very sharply, and then it will make it difficult to manufacture or all these terrorist organizations and military ventures that the United States engages in. I don't know. It's just a form of speculation on my part that this is a underlying mechanism. Well, I was raised in Shah's time, and what I observed is that when a government engages in a behavior that's immoral and criminal, and even if they keep it secret, it kind of filters down into society, and then many companies and individuals will also engage in that behavior. So, when I came here in the 78 or 80, the laws were much more strict, and companies were very conservative with money, or with their relationships with the employees. And since then, many functions or many inhibitions in behavior towards employees, towards people, they have been eroded, or many things have become legal, and or they were very taboo before, and now they are not. So a lot of relaxation in laws, but the effect is that the whole society is going in a direction that I don't know where it will end up. I don't think in the 70s or 80s there was so much homosexuality, or stuff was more under check. And then another consequence that I think will happen when the stupid empire dies or dollar dies is that many young people or women, they look at the world as if they're in a casino, and they're looking for the greater hype and greater millionaire, and so a lot of women have lost interest in things that a woman would traditionally be very interested in, like marriage or kids, and I see this in foreign women. They still have very strong interest in these things, in family, but when there is a huge flush of money into the society, and just the women their demands, they go much higher. I mean, I have experience with my ex, and she basically, the only thing that she really cared about was drugs, and she destroyed everything that she touched. That's all she cared about. And then also when all these hype money or Federal Reserve money dies out, then it's like when the party has ended and you go home and you wake up with a massive hangover and you come back to reality, and you see that there is a lot of wreckage, there is a lot of stuff that was ruined, many industries have just moved out, many jobs have died out, many laws that protect like retirements or protect the employees, they have been broken or disregarded, and it's like there is no place that you can have some faith that this will be worthwhile. Like, well, in the 70s or 80s, it used to be that it was really important to get a job with a good company, and the companies, they did pay good. It was a really valuable thing. Well, I was in college in New Hampshire. I was doing graduate work, and I was living with this old lady, and she was a retiree, or her husband was a retiree from an old union train system. And she was telling me she gets like Social Security, but she also was receiving retirement from the company. So the retirement money that the companies gave out, or the programs they had, it did have a strong meaning. It was the equivalent or even better than receiving Social Security. But because of all these financial fraud and mismanagement and theft of retirement accounts, or diverting them into other areas, so that thing that was valuable, it is ruined. It's just like waking up next day with a huge hangover, or maybe with a ticket for drunk driving. I don't know. Other countries, they don't do things that way. For example, I heard that the Germans, they have a very good retirement account for their employees, and also government gives out generously, and everything is very well managed. Also, their banks are not connected to the U.S. or stupid financial fraud banks. They're smaller banks, and they keep very strict tabs on financial transactions and fraud too. Or usually Germans are also on an individual level, they're much wealthier, and they carry like $500 euro notes. That's like what, $700? I mean, I hardly know of any American that carries that much cash in their pocket. But hey, to them that's not much of an issue. In fact, they argue with each other that we need to carry that much, and the retailers must have changed that. So basically, all these monies that the Federal Reserve published and gave it to American intelligence services and the military, it went into all kinds of military adventures and all kinds of mismanagement, and it bankrupted the Americans. Now they all this money, but the world didn't really change, and there are in many countries the people and the government, they don't want them, but they insist to remain there. For example, in Afghanistan, the government has said repeatedly that they don't want to extend this stay for American military. They are very forceful and bribe the government, and the same goes with other countries, Iraq or. There is no hardly any reason for them to be there. They have made a lot of ruins, and the other effect of all this mismanagement of publishing money and giving it to anybody is you see that many Americans and also their companies, they have very little interest in making new products or making a relationship with customers or getting into new markets or making peace with foreigners and selling them new things like new planes or new gadgets or this also filter down on a personal level is like the people do not want to form lasting or strong relationship. Everything is like casual or bar. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of changes. What I'm praying that when this bank dies or when the dollar depreciates significantly, then for a period of time there might be a lot of chaos. But then, like the day after, the hangover will come in. But I bet that a lot of assets, things that have hard value, they will be very cheap. Well, I see this with women because in the 70s and 80s when I came here, women kind of sometimes they take chances with this foreign guy. But after like 80s, 85, 90, there was so much propaganda against Muslims and Iranians. I kind of lost my way with them. I couldn't really date very much. But now I see that women are very instinctive. They know, hey, this system is going nowhere. I could take chances. It's okay. So I am starting to date more normally and get women that are better looking or better quality. I don't know. It's just a personal observation. I think the changes will be great. The world will become really flat socially. Like whatever pecking order was there is gonna, even that's gonna fall apart. I see a lot of white male. The society is not gonna be looking to reward them so generously. I don't know. They might become the underclass. I don't know. The white women they always will find somebody wants them, but I don't know. This is just a bunch of observations, and I think that encryption will take hold because many manufacturers like Apple they want to give a better service or product. So I think communications will become encrypted, and also storage of data will become totally encrypted. And also because many companies and individuals are able to publish coins or cryptocurrencies, really we are moving away from the dollar or fiat world into a different world which is a lot more flat. And also just like Venezuela and the United States is going to be unable to pressure other countries. If you have something valuable, being artistic or commodity, you're gonna get the value for it. Somebody cannot come in and do a little jazzy things with the currency or derivatives and get that for cheap. the value of commodities, and I'm talking oil or anything, or artistic, or even services, legal or otherwise, will reflect the more intrinsic value, and the people who provide these things are not going to be pressured into selling their stuff cheap. All right. So thank you for being my YouTube channel. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Okay. Thanks.